were just saying that racism is a joke in the West, and that's a fair interpretation when we look at all
Popular
of the evidence
culture, yeah.
that you just put
In the
forward.
institution, something else.
Well, yeah, within the institutions and even within cities, racism is still considered the most evil boogeyman to ever exist that is worth upturning all of Western society for and destroying all of Western culture for, which is what we're going to look at today, because England is becoming worse again, because one of our most... Yes, one of our... Yeah, let's go. One of our most beautiful cities, and one of the ones that, shockingly enough, unlike most major cities in the country, is still majority English, hold your shock, please, is going to be made worse because York is going to be made into an anti-racist city, whatever it is that means. And looking into the data, looking into the information that's been put forward so far, it basically means that the inhabitants of York are going to be bullied and brainwashed and indoctrinated into hating themselves and their own history. Before I get into that, though, appropriately, Bo released an article the other day on the website that you don't actually have to have a membership for, you don't have to subscribe to the website for, just to remind everybody that we do put out free content, and this one has done pretty well as an article, because Bo's always do. He attacks the "don't look back in anger" idea from the Manchester 2017 arena bombings with some characteristic vitriol with his way with words, and it's been quite a hit with our viewers so far. So if you're just interested in checking out the website and seeing that you don't have to pay for everything that's on there, check out this article, because oh boy, it expresses some feelings that I needed expressing for me. I'll tell you that, son. Yes.
All right, me lad.
I'll get me flat cap on for this one. No, actually, that would be appropriate given what we're looking at. So, Yorkshire, if we zoom in,
it's one of those northern places.
It's around here. It's one of them places in Da North, and it's about 87.3% white. Which
that's the county there, I think. Although like
that is the county. But as you can see, it is quite a good statistic if you care about your country of England being English.
I mean, specifically, I should mention for people listening, it's white, English, Welsh, Scottish, and Northern Irish. So these aren't Europeans, of course.
People native to the UK,
yeah,
and the territories considered within the UK. But as we can see, a lot of the southeast is just colonised, and Manchester...
I feel like I'm having a weather forecast.
Manchester is increasingly colonised as well. I mean, there are parts of Manchester, 56%, 48%. It's ridiculous. But then if we zoom into York, you don't have to laugh. I'm trying to be accurate with the data that I'm providing here, sir.
I really want you to do a weather forecast where it's like, in the north, expect calm and serenity, and in the south, expect stabbings and acid attacks.
Exactly that. Although, to be fair, where's Nottingham? Nottingham, where we had the most recent attack, where the parents of the people murdered came out and said, "Oh, don't look back in anger, guys. Let's see what that is." Oh, that's about 57% white. You can guarantee that if it had been 90%, we wouldn't have seen some of the crimes that we've got recently. I'll tell you that.
Me lad.
Me boy. SpongeBob, me boy. SpongeBob, did you know that despite making up... I'm so sorry.
SpongeBob, I've got an Asian wife now, you see.
We were able to put our differences aside, we were.
I've been invited on Fit and Fresh, I have.
York obviously has some areas where there's a bit of minorities in there. There's some racial diversity in there. But for the most part, is quite a homogenous city. And if you look into it, the people who are there who aren't English are primarily Chinese. And if I go down to here to any of the categories that include black, basically no one. Basically no one at all.
Pakistanis, Bangladeshis?
Pakistanis, let's check out. Nope.
No.
Barely.
Survey says no.
Barely any at all. The major minority within York is just Chinese people. Okay? And, some people have decided that this is a bad thing. Some people have decided they've looked at this map and said, needs to be more blacks. Needs to be more blacks. That's the only way that York will be a habitable city if we include
who's saying
black
this?
people. Black activists, obviously.
Right. Okay, not the Chinese.
We need it to... No, not the Chinese.
They're all right, actually. They're like,
nor the English people
opinion.
either. Obviously, the English people who are living there would never say it out loud, but they don't... They're not begging
the Chinese
for it.
Out loud,
they're not. Yeah, the Chinese will say it out loud, but the English people living there aren't begging for an influx of minorities to come into the city. And just to let anybody who doesn't know what York is like know. York has lots of lovely things that goes on. It's a Roman city. It was the Viking capital, Jorvik, during the Dark Ages as well. And there's a lot of history there that's often celebrated. You can see, look at this. They had a recent event on where they were celebrating the Roman history of the town. Proud people going out, dressing up, having fun. And you can see here, it's a very old city, and it's a very beautiful city. And that means that it's just a really nice place to go. But now somebody says they don't like that. They don't like that. This woman here, would you trust this woman with planning York?
I don't. Is she seriously going to sit there and argue that there is a complete lack of people milling about train stations trying to sell me miniature Eiffel Towers?
No, it's just that these people here, you see these happy people going about the streets and enjoying their local culture, celebrating their history. This child in particular
she named him.
Is racist. He's racist.
Okay.
He's racist, and the entire city of York is apparently racist, which means it's got to be changed completely from the ground up. If your town is considered to be racist by some random activist who isn't even from here, you've got to completely upend the way that your city operates and is managed. These are the new rules, because remember, diversity is our strength. Or actually, diversity might not be our strength. And did you know that the more diversity there is, there tends to be more conflict along those diversity lines, not just amongst the whites and the rest of the diversity, but even within the diversity itself. Did you know this? This is a rather unusual phenomenon that we'd never heard of before.
Complete news.
So it's an anti-racism body called Inclusive Equal Rights 3.0 have launched...
Hang on, what?
It's like they wanted to get all of the buzzwords in.
What happened to 2.0 and 1.0? I mean,
I imagine racial conflict broke them up, perhaps.
This real inclusivity's never been tried. It's the third time.
This is real inclusivity 3.0. That's right. We'll get it right this time, boys. Third time's the charm. So this is a woman called Hadi Nji. I'm not going to try and pronounce her name properly. I don't know how to. Says that she has suffered constant racism since moving to York in 2015 and will tonight become the chair of a new council-funded body. That's right, council-funded. York's... Sorry, I just almost threw up again. For understandable reasons this time. York's Labour Majority Council, unsurprisingly, is giving your council tax money to these people so that they can brainwash your children.
I mean, yeah, I'm sorry.
Pay attention to that. Keep that in mind at all times.
What is her... Because, I mean, maybe York is actually completely unlivable if you go there as an ethnic minority. Presumably the Chinese just...
You go there, you see all of the white people, and you go, how am I supposed to take these conditions?
No, but she says she experienced racism significantly. I mean, was it the case she turned up and the Chinese started screaming at her, or what was it?
No. So what... The worst was when a taxi driver didn't like her suggesting a different route and told her to get out of the car and used an offensive racial insult. Nobody's like throwing bananas at her in the street or anything, but she made a nuisance of herself in a taxi and he was mean to her as she got out. He said,
side of the story.
This is her side of the story. He said a mean word to her and didn't give her a taxi ride.
I'll be honest, I've heard of more racist places.
Yeah, so have I, but she says there's barely a day that goes by where she doesn't experience this racial harassment. She's also been overlooked in queues, refused entry to a restaurant. No context given for any of these.
Overlooked in queues? What does that mean?
I guess you just have to figure it out for yourself.
You're doing the shopping.
Whatever your answer,
and they go, no.
Whatever your answer may or may not be, it's definitely racism, though. Okay. Keep that in mind at all times. Then there is the constant, subtle, casual racism. When I pass them in the street, some people hold on to their bag or purse. I love this city, but this is not a human way of living. So once again, she's like seeing that clip that we played in the last segment of all the white people on the subway train in New York, dancing and singing to one another, having a lovely time, and she sat there going, these conditions are unbearable. How could they do this? Nobody's actually like harassing her in the street. Nobody's, trying to assault her or rob her.
Facing, discrimination.
But she's noticing that when she walks past people, they might, hold on to their bag. I'm sorry, but I don't care. I don't care. This is not a reason to destroy the city of York. Hattie, who had a master's degree in corporate law and works in risk management, says she has lived in several UK cities, including Huddersfield and London, yet the harassment she endures in York is worse than anything she experienced elsewhere. Yes, I mean, if there is harassment, which once again is rather... Sorry. Huddersfield and London have rather different demographic makeup to these places.
I mean, this is a riddle for the ages, I suppose. What's worse, someone grabbing their badge as they walk past you in London, because let's assume
well, in
because they're
York,
racist.
in York, you mean?
sorry.
Yep.
Or when you're in London and they just take the bag because of the crime rate.
Well, they stab you first.
I mean, I'd rather be racially, stereotyped personally. I find that a bit easier when I travel than
This
being
is just
robbed.
another case, like I say, of the minority standing in the white majority place where everybody's just getting along with each other and having a good time and everything's being run properly and going, I can't stand this. I can't stand this. Why aren't people blasting obnoxious music as loudly as possible in the middle of the street?
Just London things.
Yeah, just London things. This is the thing that Ash Sarkar would say as well. Oh, it's culturally enriched when you can smell 40 different obnoxious curries at the same time, and then you can also hear people blasting music out of their windows.
For £25 a serving.
Yep, there you go.
You ever been to Camden Market?
Yes, I have.
You've been recently?
No.
Hell. So, I don't know what they've done.
I went about... I would have been about 17, so about 10 years ago.
So it's got...
there was loads of signs up constantly everywhere saying, mind out for pickpockets.
I think they're still there, but
Yeah, they probably are.
it's got really real middle class now. So you've got that huge diversity of all the world's different flavors and cuisines possible. But I saw one store, we sat down, and it was £9 for avocado on toast. This is just a street stall with some seating.
You could probably buy an avocado bread and a toaster for less than that.
Yeah.
I hate London. But she continues and says, often reporting harassments to the police has little effect, probably because they're listening and going, is that it? Is that it?
You got any crime?
Yeah, did anybody try and rob you or attack you? Or no, they just said a mean word to you. Bog off. That's what the response should be. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the subject of race and the subtleties of it. This often deters victims of racial harassment from reporting abuse, she says. They think, forget it. Yeah, because it's not a real crime. It's a made-up crime to suit obnoxious people like you. You're a complete joke. She says that according to the figures from North Yorkshire Police, cases of race-related hate crimes in York soared by 239% between 2010 and 2021, which, by the way, is kind of coinciding with slightly more people of minority backgrounds ending up in York at the same time. So probably just more people reporting that somebody said something mean to me.
Yeah, I think it's also the statistic, 60-some% of all hate crime victims are white, and they're also
Probably.
underrepresented in terms of committing them.
I would be shocked.
For some reason.
And a new body...
Just 2 bits of data no one thinks about.
So, as I mentioned, the new body had grown out of a motion passed by the City of York Council a year ago, which declared that York aimed to become the North's first anti-racism city. It was in October 2021, and the motion was unopposed and approved by all City of York councillors from all political parties. So it is heavily skewed in Labour's direction. I think there's 24 council members who are part of Labour, but there's 3, I think, Tory members as well as a few Lib Dems and a few Greens, and they were all just in complete unison with one another, went straight ahead with that. And I decided to, her group has the following initiatives, which I got from a different article here. So they were called Speak Up to Diversity, and that group seems to have dissolved and been replaced by this Inclusive Equal Rights 3.0. And they say, we aim to dismantle systemic racism with 4 initiatives: education and awareness, boosting BAME representation in decision-making, reviewing policy, and tackling racist incidents in schools and workplaces. So what we're saying is we're going to shove all of our own operatives within the organizations, and we are going to brainwash you through education and awareness.
Literally, point number 2, we've seen this happen in real terms, only results in systemic racism against Asians and whites.
Well, that's what it's about. These are always anti-white initiatives at the end of the day. That's what this whole thing is about. I looked into why it might be
by increasing it.
That this, I looked into why it might be that this whole initiative came about in the first place, what motivated people to start pushing for this. And the best I could really find was that back in 2021, there was a news story where fear is Brexit hate mail sent to homes in York saying, we won't be happy until you people leave. Here is the image. We have won Brexit. It is time for you to go back to wherever you came from. We don't need foreigners.
It's not personalised then.
Yep. We don't need foreigners misspelling, taking our housing, our jobs, our GP places. We won't be happy until you leave our country. And this was just taken for granted that this was obviously completely true. There's no chance that this could just be, say, a leftist hoax. There's no chance that this could just be children playing a prank. There's no chance it could be anything other than racist hate groups getting together to try and scare off the, let me see here, who was this sent to? Local Italians. Nicoletta Pedis said that she was in a...
I've had enough of your pizzas.
Yeah. Said that she was in a restaurant with friends in York and the group was speaking Italian when somebody shouted at them to speak in English because they are in England. How rude. How rude of you.
That's not unreasonable. But
I mean, that isn't unreasonable.
Go back to wherever you come from, you Italian, Sicilian mother...
Yeah. You bloody fascist.
It's actually Antifa being like, no Italians, no Germans.
Yep. And then there's this clip that came out of her talking about it.
Someone in the chat's just like, Romans, go home.
Correcting the grammar.
Yeah. No. This is how you spell foreigner.
Yeah, there's this clip of her that we might as well play as well. She says everything you expect, but let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
Everyone, thank you for having me. My name is Hadi Nijai, and I am from Speak Up Diversity. So I founded Speak Up Diversity, but it's not just me. It's me and the entire team. We've got 7 of us that are working to dismantle and tackle the systemic and structural racism in the city first, and then move beyond the city. So this is who we are, Speak Up Diversity, and we've named it so that it becomes very positive. You know, there are so many organizations, they have the racism in there. I think that's very important to be bold. But this is more about diversity. How do we dismantle the structural issues so that we can have a much more diverse and inclusive society in York?
Yeah, I think the thing that worries me most about that, as with all of these things, which is that she says we want to move it beyond the city. Eventually, we need to get it in the city and then move it beyond the city, because this seems like it will once again play into this initiative that the government seems to have to diversify the countryside, which seems to me to be a terrible idea. The same sort of initiatives where they say, the countryside is too white, the farmers are too white, we need to replace all of the farmers with diversity farmers, which went so well in Zimbabwe and South Africa because white people don't know how to farm. Am I right, bros?
It is an honest work, but it pays much.
Yeah.
Diversity farming.
Well, it doesn't pay anything if you watch Clarkson's farm.
I know. I mean, if you're a diversity farmer, you'll make money. I mean, she's a diversity farmer.
Yeah, you could point there. So I can only guess at, well, I think the initiative has been given £25,000 as an initial startup from the York Council. So once again, if you live in York, this is what your council tax is going towards. Just like how I found out that £5,000 had been given to a local, was it 5,000 or 5? Yeah, it was £5,000 had been given by the Swindon Council to a local pro-migrant, pro-refugee.
What's going on with those
charity.
trending?
What?
Those trending tabs.
I think we know what's going on with these trending tabs. I imagine it will be covered on tomorrow's podcast. Let's not lose track of what's important here, which is how racist York
Romans
is.
go home.
Yeah, which is you can go on University of York, all of the different organizations over there. They've got the Speak Up and Report Racism, Equity, Equality. Oh my God, Equality, Diversion and Inclusion. These guys are really behind the times, not equity. Very racist of you. And as I said, the Speak Up Diversity, the organization as it was known before, their website is down. You can't really get onto it anymore, probably because the organization dissolved. But I was able to find it through the web archive. And I just took a look on the website, and it's a bit of a, not great as you imagine from these sorts of people, but if you go through the team, every single one of them pronouns, every single one of them is a woman. They've got possibly woman plus. But this is a very feminine initiative. But the thing that most interested me, because everything says exactly what you expected to here, is you've got this quote at the top of the page, and it says, "Racism is a profound deviation from the standard of true morality." I don't remember that in the Bible, but okay. It deprives a portion of humanity, when they're presenting the 7 deadly sins, and we're going to add an extra one at the end, a little asterisk, racism.
11th commandment that everyone forgot.
Yeah. It deprives a portion of humanity of the opportunity to cultivate and express the full range of their capability and to live a meaningful and flourishing life, blah, 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 blah. Cannot be rooted out by contest and conflict. Oh, we're not designating anyone as the other. Whatever. It says all the same things. The Universal House of Justice. And I was looking at this and thought, what the bloody hell is the Universal House of Justice? So I decided to, what is this? I go on the website, the Universal House of Justice, an official website of the Baha'i faith. What on earth is that? International Governing Council of the Baha'i Faith. Its creation was ordained by Baha'u'llah.
Sorry, is this like
This
Hawaiian?
is real. This is real. We'll find out in a moment. Conferred authority upon the Universal House of Justice to exert a positive influence on the welfare of humankind, to promote education, peace, and global prosperity, and to safeguard human honor and the position of religion. And I'm still just there like, what on earth is this? What's going on? So I just Google it, and I get this. The Baha'i faith is a religion founded in the 19th century that teaches the essential worth of all religions and the unity of all people. This is literally the cult of globalism. For their website, they had a quote from an organization promoting the cult of globalism. And it was established by this bloke here, this chap. It has three central figures. The Bab, considered a herald who taught his followers that God would soon send a prophet who would be similar to Jesus or Muhammad, and who was executed by the Iranian authorities in 1850. I've never heard of this guy. And then it's got a few other people who claim to be prophets. This all is just some fever dream that these people who are going to be potentially restructuring the way that York operates and re-educating your children.
Happens to be a bunch of cultists.
Yeah, shockingly enough, crazy race cultists turn out to just be plain old normal cultists. I know. Big shock. Here's their website now, Equal Inclusive Rights 3.0. Here we have the horrifying flat corporate people from every bit of corpo artwork you have ever seen. And you can go on the report that they filed, where here's the report that's going to put forward the plan for anti-racism as an anti-racist city for York. And it's horrifying. It's terrible. I'll go through some of the information in a moment because you can find it in here. It's best to just break down the information. So the campaign group, Inclusive Rights UK, that's what they're known as now, not just 3.0, set out the 5-year plan. It found that 6.3% of the City of York Council's 2,600 workforce are from ethnic minorities, which has increased from 5% in 2019, compared with 10.1% across the national public sector. Of the 9 members of the City of York senior management team, one identified as someone of BAME community, while its executive portfolio is entirely, say it with me now, folks, white. There are fewer than 10 minority ethnic police officers in York, and just 5% of the 734 staff of the Tees, Esk, and Weir Valleys Mental Health Trust are BAME. The research also found that in 2022, hate crime incidents in the North Yorkshire Police Force exceeded 1,000 for the first time, and approximately 2/3 were race-related. No extra context. It's probably all minor, inconsequential stuff. They're not talking about violent crime, but if they were talking about the violent crime, and crime that actually matters, they probably wouldn't actually be good reflecting on the communities that they're talking about in York, because I decided to take a quick look at the government website on crime in the UK broken down by ethnicity.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I will do it. I'm about to do it. It's not the same as FBI statistics because they don't break it down by types of crime committed. They break it down by arrests and the ethnicity of the people being arrested. Nowhere in England did I find a single county where it was anything less than a 2-to-1 ratio of black arrests to white arrests. White uniformly were the lowest, and in North Yorkshire, for instance,
I don't believe that. Come on.
No, honestly, because Asian
It's not to do ethnic groups or race, because I'm thinking Indians.
It was broken down by race.
Okay.
Ethnic groups didn't go any further. I think they used to do East Asian and Indian, but they've all been folded into Asian, which will also include people from Pakistani background and such. So that'll bump the numbers up a bit for them.
Do they include all the Chinese in that as well?
I imagine so, yes. So that'll bump those numbers up. So white ends up being the one with the least arrests overall in the entire country for every single area. And in York, the ratio of arrests was 2-for-1 for blacks to whites. Now, like me, you could be a normal person and assume, okay, I guess they're committing more crimes. I would imagine that the sort of tactic that these people would take would mean that just means the police be racist.
Just hate black people. Sorry.
That's the only way.
That's the only solution, apparently, to
because
police arrests.
It turns out hate crimes are a complete BS category meant to distract from actual crimes being committed by ethnically inconvenient people.
Remember when Ricky Gervais stood up and said, we have no black nominees for such and such category at the Golden Globes, and then said, I'm terribly sorry, it just all the Hollywood foreign press are terribly racist, so better luck next year.
Yeah, there you go.
But I love it because it's so exposed. It's like, no, it's not because of racism. It's just the majority of the candidates this year. Sorry, this is not good enough.
Yeah.
I love how everyone knows that, but they'll play that game, even in the Golden Globes.
Of course they play the game, because it's all a power game. And politics is about power games, but this is a particularly annoying way of doing it that, if you actually go through the prescriptions that it offers, ends up destroying a country. That's the worst part of it for me. But the key initiatives of the strategy, this article carries on saying, developed with academics at York St. John University, include asking employers to sign an anti-racist pledge, targeted outreach for underrepresented communities, a racial equity commission to review city policies, and unconscious bias training for all city employees. So just empowering a load of disaffected freaks and people who aren't part of the majority population there. So typical solution that we've got these days for the elites in charge, who are completely absorbed into this absurd ideology and actively want to tank the countries they exist within. But I'll carry on. We hope that this 5-year plan provides a solid foundation for our city to become more inclusive and equitable to everyone. According to the Office for National Statistics, 92.8% of people in York identified their ethnic group within the white category, compared with 94.3% in 2011. Meanwhile, the population of York's BAME population grew to approximately 14%, meaning 1 in 7 people are from ethnic minorities. Now, note that there is a bit of a disparity between that. If 92.8% of them are white, how can they have a black and minority ethnic population of 14%?
Literally impossible.
Literally impossible. That would mean that you've got a population.
But we have a 5-year plan.
100%. Yes, we've got the 5-year plan. Just trust
Seriously,
the plan, comrade.
the actual anti-racist 5-year plan here.
Yes. We've got an anti-racist commissar coming into York to decide how the city operates from
Production
now on.
numbers are not high enough.
Yeah, literally a racial equity commission to review city policies. So you will have the anti-racist commissar come in and tell you how to run your city. Absolutely ridiculous. But if you were wondering what was going on with the maths and if the numbers were being a little bit massaged, well, happily, the Daily Mail has 2 articles that discuss how everything in the report is a complete lie. I know you could have said that, you could have known that without reading the report, but it's good to know. So the report proceeds to show that the percentage is not fairly reflected across a wide range of local benchmarks, except the 2021 census does not say this at all. Puts the non-white figure, as you would imagine given how numbers work, at 7.2%. Although it's not fully explained, what the authors of this study seem to have done is to split white British from all those else identifying as white and then transfer the latter to the black and minority ethnic total. So black and minority ethnic will also include Italians. Those damn Romans.
Now I agree with them.
Yep.
Romans go home.
House of Commons data for the York Central constituency breaks this down. Go on.
I always thought I was a white man, but now I'm on the Council of Anti-Racism.
Italians confirmed black. Finally.
Happens every time.
Every single time, yes. So white Irish is 0.7%, white Gypsy 0.2%, but most significantly, other white 6.2%. So that's where they're getting the rest of those numbers from. Where it does show a very marked difference in this report is in hate crimes. These, the report concedes, have actually dropped by almost 30% over the same period of time that they're talking about. So they've not gone up 239%. They've actually gone down 30%. I've no idea where they've got the 239% from. The report makes no mention of the fact that the national picture is completely different, a rise of 37%. So York is actually going down when the rest of the country is getting more racist. Interesting to know. The York and Scarborough NHS Hospitals Trust has a much larger full-time workforce of 5,155. Of these, 27.8% are black and minority ethnic. So you can't be making the claim that it's not diverse enough, because in fact they're massively overrepresented there. And when contacted yesterday, neither the Labour MP for York Central, the Tory MP for Outer York, nor the York City Council were available for comment. How convenient. And then in this next article as well, there's more information that they unearth, which is on the sensitive subject of racist policing. The report press release stated that the stop and search rates for black residents were now around 90 times higher, and for people of Asian ethnicity, 18 times higher than for white people. Can you imagine if that was a lie as well? Can you imagine the gall if that was a lie? Well, it was a lie. It was a lie. But in the small print of the report, it was revealed that an overwhelming majority of the 1,843 of the stop and search incidents involved white British people, and just 33 for Asian people, 24 for Caribbean people, 21 for Pakistani people, and 13 of African background. Nowhere near what they're suggesting. A section detailing personal experiences of racism was compiled by 2 academics from York St John University. They reported some participants expressed that they had altered their own habits and routines to avoid being targeted for racist abuse in York. The most common complaint was exposure to racist language, attitudes, and behavior. They found examples of racism in health, education, and policing, and some believed racism was a significant problem in the city. Except this qualitative study was based on interviews from just 10 people, 6 of whom worked at one university. So they might have all just been racist to each other because they all came from differing ethnic backgrounds. So 10 people say that the city is racist and I hate it every single day. And then also the woman running this whole project says, everything's racist, everything's horrible, people clutch at their bags while they're walking past me. And York City Council goes, so stunning, so brave, here's 25 grand, come up with a race commissar, come up with the race commissars so we can decide how to run the city as an anti-racist city. Absolutely ridiculous. But the most ridiculous part of this whole thing was this. The anti-racist charity behind the new plans to make York an anti-racist city, in a document outlining its mission objectives, features the claim that Roman York was predominantly black. These are the people. These are the people who are going to be in charge of the laws that the city passes from now on. It has been suggested.
Hang on. They're right.
Oh, Italians.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Romans.
Oh, yeah, I see now.
I mean, look, if they are black, then
Confirmed.
yes, the town was majority black.
Well, they say it's been suggested by one historian, just the one,
Just the one historian, actually, who was like, yeah, I am
Looney
black.
Tom. Looney Tom. He's just, they're all black. One historian around this.
It's like a Baz figure who's like, well, basically black, aren't they?
They're all black, aren't they? Yeah, said that at the time of the Roman occupation, the population of York, largely a military garrison town, was predominantly black, which once again confirms that yes, Italians are black, and just to say again, diversity is indeed not a strength at all.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode, and what makes music good. And if you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.